You're talking about Dolphin Cove because their parent company has been having some issues for a while now. What's the latest with that?
So, there were some court filings provided last week whereby the chief administrative officer, which is appointed by the creditors, Stephen Strom, and the chief restructuring officer, I believe name is Robert Wagstaff, they have engaged two particular firms. They approached Greenhill and Company to be their investment banker and Keen Summit Capital Partners LLC to be their real estate advisor and broker. So they plan to actually, well, their intention is to actually market some of the company's foreign properties and their subsidiaries to a group of investors to raise cash up to the parent company and its subsidiaries. So this was filed in Delaware because it's currently at Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is a debt restructuring in effect. And under the initial schedule that they provided for real estate that the company or the group actually owns, they've listed the Dolphin Cove properties here in Jamaica. So Puerto Rico, Ocho Rios, Montego Bay, and Yaman Adventure Park. Yaman Adventure Park is, the ATVs and all those other doom buggies and everything else. So this, can be a good or bad thing depending on how it's structured, because what I potentially suspect that is going to happen is that you're probably going to see the sale of the real estate and a leaseback arrangement. So sell the real estate to a third party, and you just lease it back from them on a monthly lease arrangement. And the team, of the administrators and administrators basically say, hey, declare a dividend to shareholders, which should benefit the manager shareholders as well, send the money back up to the parent company to the higher subsidiaries to address the capital needs at the higher level. So Dolphin Cove has had a pretty tumultuous year, to be fair, because when the news first came out about, one of the intermediate parent companies entering the Concurso Mercantil in Mexico, that sent the price up from like $19 to $11 in less than 2 weeks. The news that Stafford Burrows, the chairman at the time, said, hey, he was, willing to buy the company back if it went up for sale. So the company price went back to $19, erased its losses, and it started to trend back down as people took profits. And then we saw some allegations made by the former CEO of the parent company about, borrower status on the board and against the board members. So that's in the price went down again. The company announced a dividend of 60 cents. The price went back up. News come out again. The price come back down. So for some persons, they made some good money. For others, they were holding pretty heavy unrealized losses.
Sean wants to know, how do they have the authority to sell these properties, especially the ones from Dolphin Cove?
So back in April 2019, Controladora, that's the internet company, it and a couple of other entities took out a $100 million US note from investors in the international markets, right? There was a debt facility. After the debt facility, they pledged different assets, and when the asset was pledged, was all of the Dolphin Cove shares owned by its parent company. So 79.99% shares are actually currently pledged as collateral to the debt facility, and the administrative team were restructuring the business and trying to, restore some harmony across the group. They have the authority, which is married to shareholders, to go through this process to sell the real estate and, likely pay a dividend out to shareholders to send that money back up to the parent. And the thing is, it's not a bad idea because dolphins are just assets, it's biological assets, the dolphins, the parrots, and other animals, but the real estate, it's, not what one would call germane, or what we would describe as, the thing that would basically kill the company if it's not there. Because once you have an ironclad lease arrangement and that potential new buyer, is comfortable buying those properties and haven't paid a monthly lease, you're probably likely going to be very comfortable because Dolphin Cove Limited, the listed entity in the JSE, operationally, they are fine. So they're relatively isolated from all the developments taking place at the parent company level. But the problem is that because the parent company is, administrator trying to restructure the debt and try to also get capital up there to do the liquidity crunch, they're trying to find cash on other means. And in this case, they're finding to advertise some of the properties, the farm properties, to a group of investors. Even before, I came at Tickens like a while ago, someone shared the same article I wrote on Observer on Friday about a real estate sale because persons are interested in the potential purchase of that property under a arrangement.
So how is all of this going to impact shareholders, David, especially the Jamaican shareholders?
So I gave a scenario because it would not be in the best interest of the creditors, administrators to try and circumvent minority shareholders in the proposed plan to sell the real estate. Either to sell the real estate, pay a dividend, a massive dividend to shareholders, and send the money back up to the parent company. You would likely see an increase in the monthly administrative expenses because there'd be a lease cost associated with operating the business now. But at the end of the day, for some investors, depending on the size of the dividend payout, might be worthwhile because you bought that with $11 and if it's a $2 dividend, that's, call it about 17%. And that's just me being putting numbers off the top of my head. Like I'm not done what one would call a best guess, or best estimate calculation of what the potential return could be for the said Dolphin Cove real estate. But all in all, it is a potential opportunity if that transaction plays out as it needs to play out and a dividend is paid out. But in the interim, all of this noise has caused the price to go down by 35% year to date, which is pretty rough. $19 at the start of the year, $12 right now. So pretty significant decline in the price. And
How much is it trading at right now, you said?
$12.07. That's the year at around
19.
Yeah. So you see the decline that has occurred. So right now, the biggest risk is just the continued battle between the former CEO, Eduardo Albord, and the administrators. Every time you go to Delaware courts and look at the court documents, you're seeing new allegations, because these are not proven by the court as yet, that something has taken place with Albord, something has taken place here, there. It's battle between Mexican and US courts. So it's very noisy and very annoying in a sense because you cannot really put a timeline on all these developments that are going to be taking place right now because they mentioned this proposal. They have not put Dolphin Cove properties up as properties that should be marketed immediately because they're still waiting on the courts to approve Green Hill and Keen Summit as their investment bankers and real estate brokers. But the reality is it's going to be a tough period for me now here at Dolphin Cove from the perspective of just confidence, just with all that's going on. The AAJ is next week, Thursday, July 3 at the Corley Hotels at 2 p.m. So that's going to be in person, unfortunately. But the persons who can attend and keep their colleagues informed, you can go to the meeting and actually ask questions as to what's going on. Because one thing that happened recently was that a JC literally came out that Stafford Borough's office as a director was vacated. He's no longer director of Dolphin Cove, but we've not heard announcement of a new chairman as yet. Neither have we heard any clarity from the board or team as to the validity of that move, to remove him as a director. So it's just a lot of uncertainty and just, I shouldn't say, a bit of confusion as well.
Oh boy. Oh, Dolphin Cove, one of the stocks that we continue to keep our eye on.